Good evening. Let's begin our meeting. Welcome, commissioners, city management, city administration, and staff, and welcome to our guests that have joined us in the meeting room with us this evening. We are managing social distancing, and we are operating at a limited occupancy due to the health orders, but we have invited the general public into tonight's meeting. The general public is also invited to view the meeting in any of the three places that you're able to do that: Sudden Link, Channel 10, at the city's website, cityofclovis.org, and the meeting is also streamed on Facebook, the city's Facebook page. The viewing public is invited to provide comment or get questions before the commission, and you can do that by dialing 575-763-9200. If you'll call your questions or comments in, we'll get them before the commissioners this evening. We'll begin tonight's meeting with a prayer, and then we will honor our flags. Pray with me. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity that we have to do the city's work tonight, and we pray that you would guide us and make us wise and make us good stewards of the city and the city's resources. Lord, thank you for the citizens of Clovis and the privilege it is to serve them in this capacity. Bless us this evening, we pray. I pray in the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. This meeting is called to order. Would the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Levitt?
Here.
Commissioner Madrid?
Here.
Commissioner Casals?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Here.
Commissioner Garza?
Here.
Commissioner Render?
Here.
Commissioner Rowley?
Here.
Mayor Morris?
Here. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, you have the agenda in front of you. Do we have any recommendations to remove or rearrange the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve coming from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant and a second coming from Commissioner Garza. Commissioners, will you please vote?
Might have to have a roll call vote.
Clerk, could we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Madrid?
Yes.
Commissioner Casals?
Yes.
Commissioner Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Render?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Levitt?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, the motion carries and tonight's agenda has been approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. First, we have the minutes from the Thursday, June 4th, 2020 meeting. Commissioners, you have those minutes in your packet. You've had a chance to review them. Do we have any recommendations for changes or corrections?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the agenda from Thursday, June 4th from Commissioner Casals, and the second came from Commissioner Madrid. Commissioners, will you please vote?
Roll call. The roll call.
Clerk, could we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Casals?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Abstain.
Commissioner Render?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Levitt?
Yes.
And Commissioner Madrid?
Yes.
By a vote of 7 in favor and 1 abstention, the motion carries. Next, we have the minutes from the Friday, June 12th, 2020 meeting. Commissioners, you also have those minutes in your packet. Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval. Second.
The motion for approval came from Commissioner Madrid and the second from Commissioner Garza. Would the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Elliott?
Abstain?
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Render,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley,
Yes.
Commissioner Levitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid,
Yes.
Commissioner Casals.
Yes.
Thank you. By a vote of 7 in favor and 1 abstention, the motion carries, and the minutes from the Friday, June 12th meeting have been approved. Next item on the agenda is the recognition of visitors, and I just wanted to say welcome to those of you that have joined us in person tonight. It's great to have you here, and when we reach the section in the agenda where you're able to provide public comment, we look forward to hearing from you. Item number 8 on the agenda is proclamations, awards, and presentations, and we have one item there tonight, and it is presentation of proclamation proclaiming June 20th, 2020 as Juneteenth Freedom Day. Ms. Burrows, would you advise?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. In your packet on page 15 is the proclamation for this year's Juneteenth. We're excited to be celebrating Juneteenth this year. I think there's going to be an event at Potter Park, a brief activity with social distancing, and I believe Kiara Luera is here somewhere. Mayor, thank you.
Yes. Ma'am, would you like to come forward? Yeah. Thank you, and the floor is yours. Please tell us about your event.
Hello. Oh, sorry. I'm new. Sorry. Okay. And a little nervous, so excuse me.
You're fine.
Okay. So Juneteenth, the event is going to be held at Potter's Park, with the mayor, declaring that day. Following the guidelines of COVID-19, everyone that is visiting or that's going to participate in that event is going to be placed in their car, and they won't get out just because of social distancing. And then people who do not have vehicles, we advise them just to be 6 feet apart, just away from one another. Unfortunately, the past years we've been able to have a big celebration, but with everything going on, we at least want to get that day recognized.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. And I will now read the proclamation. Whereas 2020 is the 155th year of Juneteenth Freedom Day, a nationally recognized day which celebrates the rich culture, legacy, and heritage of African Americans in the state of New Mexico, and whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the abolition of slavery in the United States dating back to June 19, 1865, when Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas with the news that the war had ended, freeing the enslaved. 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which became official January 1st, 1863, and whereas in order that we as a city, state, and nation never forget the harsh treatment and injustices blacks experienced under slavery, and whereas today Juneteenth celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures, as it takes on a more national, symbolic, and even global perspective, and that the events of 1865 are not forgotten. And now, therefore, I, Mike Morris, Mayor of the City of Clovis, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim June 20th, 2020 as Juneteenth Freedom Day in the City of Clovis, and I encourage citizens of Clovis to recognize and celebrate the 155th year of this nationally recognized commemoration, which honors the history, legacy, and culture of African Americans.
Ms. Loretta, are we still gonna have a rain check on fish fry?
I wish.
As soon as we get this thing?
As soon as we get the okay.
All right. I remember. I will remember.
Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is receipts of petitions and communications. So if there's anyone that would like to address the commission, this is the time to do that. We're going to ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less in order to provide enough time for everyone to address the commission that wishes to. We would just need you to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 3 minutes.
I have, I'm sorry. Good evening, Mayor and the Commissioners. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. Just wanted to find out, we have 3 hoteliers here, so I would like you to, I would please ask to see if 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. 9 minutes would count, or would it be 3 minutes altogether?
Sure. Each citizen that wants to speak can have 3 minutes.
Can have 3 minutes?
Yes.
Can I take a rollover from him if he doesn't speak 3 minutes?
Mr. Jariwala, state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Dhaval Jariwala. I reside at 140 Scottsdale Drive, Clovis, New Mexico, and I own 2 hotels in town. Best Western, located at 201 Sheps Boulevard, and Super 8 in Clovis, New Mexico, located at 2912 Mabry Drive. This evening, I'm here because I have few questions. About a month and actually a couple of months back, when this whole COVID-19 started and how it started affecting the businesses, I did address from my business itself, and that time that we were doing a meeting remotely, and I had asked for assistance in regards to some kind of deferrals on taxes or something like that, and I sent the letters to the city, county, and state, and I got the same answers from everybody saying that it was a no donation clause that the state of New Mexico abides by. What happened, what came to me was what fund I was asking assistance was from the lodger's tax. I would like to find out, and I would like you guys to write down some questions, and hopefully I get an answer before I leave the stage. Is if everybody here is aware, where does lodger's tax come from? Who collects lodger's tax? Now, mark my words what I'm saying. Hotels do not pay lodger's tax. Hotels collect lodger's tax. So I want to ask everybody here, sitting here, where does lodger's tax come from? Does any other business collects lodger's tax? All right. The next thing, I would like a clear description, because I was on the lodger's tax committee. I would like to know the use of funds, okay? City of Roswell has its own website on the Hobbs, City of Cimarron. Everybody details very in detail that where do the lodger's tax funds are used for. And it clearly states that, so I would like to know, I don't know if city attorney is here or not, but I would like to get an explanation on that. That where do the lodger's tax fund gets used? What is the purpose of collecting the lodger's tax? All right, came to know before this meeting that there are two parts of lodger's tax. There is a Fund A and Fund B, or whatever you call it. Okay. I would like an explanation of a special meeting that happened last Friday for the allocation of $10,000 that the City of Commission has approved out of the lodger's tax fund. I don't care which fund it is from. I still would like to know and get an explanation on that, which states that the City of Clovis has legally assigned those funds for the 4th of July fireworks from their contribution. B, again, what I would like to tell you is my request was pretty simple, you know. Just like a dairy farmer, a cow gives milk, people make money off, like, you know, the dairy farmer makes the money off the selling the milk, right? Same exact deal. Hotels are the ones that collect the taxes, you know, and we appropriate and we pay it to the city, okay? So when the hotels are suffering, we were asking for this because I knew what the purpose was for, and that purpose was not going to be sufficed because a lot of events are already getting canceled, and I knew they were going to get canceled for the whole year. So we were asking assistance as in deferment. We are not asking for charity. We don't want nothing for free, okay? My parents told me about it. Nobody gets nothing for free. My wife tells me the same thing also, you know? But I just want to mention it to you. We don't want nothing for free from you guys, okay? All we want to do and what we wanted to ask for is deferment on taxes, and if it's a no donation clause, you could charge us an interest when we start paying it back to you. But I would like you to, I would have loved to consider that as far as that goes. The next question I would like to ask is that why is the city, because I've been here for 6 years, last 6 years, and I have been chamber member for 3 years, the first 3 years. And I have received the smoke on fire donations coming from the Chamber of Commerce. And we have donated to that very same event, all the local businesses. I want to know if somebody or anybody approached you, and Mayor, excuse you, I know that this is your first term, but there are city commissioners over here who have been here for such a long time. Has anybody ever approached you to fund the same event before? And if so, I would like to know whether if you said yes or no, or what did you tell them? Did you tell them the same thing that you told me, that I asked you for the assistance, that it's a no donation clause, and that the city of Clovis cannot help fund the same exact event? Or did you say, yeah, okay, we'll contribute this much? That's what I want to know. So I want to know the legality of it. Whether if you're just telling me that we can't assist you because it's a no donation clause, and where else you can conduct your own personal agenda of having a 5 minute of fame, which you mean to tell me that that's some sense of normalcy? I have my 12-year-old here. I assume that the 12-year-old would enjoy more fireworks, right? Listen to him, what he has to say. I'm going to give temporary mic to him because I want him to voice his voice also too, so that you guys know what a 12-year-old is expecting. Please, Arav, go ahead, state your name.
My name is Arav Jariwala, and my address is 140 Scottsdale Drive. I would like
Pull up the microphone just a little bit so we can hear you. There you go. Thank you.
Do you want me to restate my name?
No, you're fine.
You're fine.
Go ahead.
So I would just like to say that I would rather spend more time with my dad than just watch a bunch of fireworks for like 5 to 10 minutes. And I want to thank the mayor and the city commissioners for letting me speak.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm sorry about that, but I had to bring him over to voice his own concern because I could not keep his voice at my house and tell me what he thinks about it. I wanted him to make sure that he voices out and tells people who have voted for this event and for this funding that to be happen. You know, personally, I would, at this stage, like to thank Commissioner Casals for your no vote. thank you so very much.
You're
From
welcome.
bottom of my heart. And I wish there were more support for that, you know. And thank you so very much. And I really appreciate at least you believe in what the small businesses are going through. And you're not in a denial, I would say, you know. But yes, thank you so very much. I would like to
welcome.
thank you personally for that no vote, you know. And thank you. Next thing, what I would like to know is the questions that I put it. So I need that legal thing saying that that is not a donation that you assign that $10,000 to. That you always done it, or this is a one-time thing and it's a donation. Well, the assistance that we were asking for the same exact funds was not every year. Not every year we are asking you for. We are asking you assistance just for the period that my businesses are suffering, or that being said, I'm not selfish, okay? Hotel collects these funds. I'm not asking help for just the hotels, okay? Maybe not all the small businesses are here, but believe me, if a city of Portales can lay out that $200,000 grant that they laid out for applications for the small businesses affected by COVID-19 for the relief of it, if you roll out the same thing, watch, you'll be overwhelmed with the applications that how many businesses are suffering. I mean, I don't care whether who supports me or who don't. If I see something wrong, I will speak up.
Thank
Okay?
you.
And that's what I would like to know. Well, again, like I said, I'm not done yet. Hopefully I can get some more time from, is it already 6 minutes?
Wait.
It's been well over.
Well over.
Well over 6 minutes.
All right, then
Is there-
I'm willing to wait after the end of the city commission, like,
No.
meeting two, have a special meeting called, but I need these answers addressed and all my concerns addressed.
Mr. Jarawala.
Yes.
Not to, put it out in front of everyone, but have these questions not been addressed at length with you? I know we've had at least one commissioner that spent a lot of time with you and explained all of this to you in detail.
Well, I was told the no commission, the one that I want the answers for is I want to know what law gives you authority to assign the $10,000 from the lodgers tax fund to the firework. That's what I'm telling you. I have been telling you the same thing.
Okay.
So
well,
if the
well,
commissioner,
Mr.
it's
Jarawala,
okay. If the-
let's take a shot at answering that question before you give us another one. Mr. Howalt, could you speak to that, or Mr. Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. The city of Clovis has imposed a 5% lodgers tax. That 5% is broken up 1.5% that goes into our general fund, 2% that goes to the advertising promotions, and then the other 1.5% goes to the Civic Center. So the fireworks themselves are coming out of the 1.5% that is given to our general fund. Underneath the procurement code, that is a qualified expense and a legal expense for our municipality just to expend those funds are. As far as where you can find all this information is available on our website underneath our municipal code, specifically in section 3.18, which is our lodgers tax portion of our municipal code. So it is all available out there for the public to find. And so hopefully that addresses that question, but it was definitely a legal expenditure out of that 1.5% that's dedicated to the general fund per the ordinance.
All right, I have something else to say on that. Going back to the same example, a dairy farmer, a cow, and a milk. I don't care whether the cow gives whether it's separated into 2% milk, whole milk, or whatever milk. The milk comes from the cow. That means we collect the tax for the city. If what we decide that we don't want to collect it for you, or we want the total governance on that 5% that we collect because we disagree with the city, the way they are using those funds. Can somebody explain me what needs to be done? If it needs to be done legally, we can appoint a lawyer and we can go and fight this out in the courts. I'm willing to do that because I am not happy with the use or with the decisions city is making, and I refuse to agree with you guys because I just simply refuse that no. This is not the purpose, because if I tell you how many times of any business owners have been asked those questions, because we get asked that question all the time by our guest who stays at our hotel that, hey, the state tax is only 8 point something percent. Why is your hotel tax 13%? We have to explain it to them. And guess what? With the hours that I'm putting at my hotel, and the way I'd have to tell them that, okay, your 5% that you pay us, and we pay it to the city, and what purpose they're using those funds for, you don't even want to know what kind of words they use for the city commission to make that decision. And I would not want to repeat those words, because they are the ones who pay us. We collect it and we pay it to you guys, and we tell them, because, you know, just like how Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has personal relationships with some business owners, we have developed our own relationship with our guest who constantly comes and over stays with us, you know. And they let us know, because we are very transparent. They ask us where this 5% goes to. We tell them that this is where it goes through. But guess what? And they see the hotel owner working their 100 plus hours or 75 plus hours ever after that. And then we tell them that, oh yeah, the lodgers tax fund part of it, or whatever part of it is. I don't care which part it is, because all that 5% we collect it. Nobody else, no other business collects it, you know. But that's what is used for the fireworks. They are lit, you know. That I would rather have them use it for the purpose that you collect it for, rather than fireworks. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to offer public comment this evening? Welcome, and please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Chandra Mahan, and I live at 809 Chase Meadows Lane. Okay,
Welcome. Thanks for being here, and we're glad to hear from you, Ms. Mahan.
thank you for having me. So I'm a little nervous myself. So my name is Chandra Mahan, and I was one of the many individuals who did the vigil and the protest rally 2 weeks ago. I have with me Kayla, Malcolm, and Connie. Lindsay could not be here. She actually lives in Roswell, but she was another one who helped us. So, okay. Okay, so as we are aware of like all the situations that are going on in the world today, as far as the police brutality, we definitely do not want that to happen here. There are 10 demands that we did give to Mayor Mike Morris, and he's taken a look at it. And it's a pretty lengthy list. It's 10 of them. We also know that we cannot just go in and say, hey, we want to change police reform and it get done overnight. We also understand that there are some things on there that we wanted to see more diversity in education and in the classroom, in the schools. And we also understand some of those things have to be done at a state level. So we know this is we're the tortoise in the race right now. So we totally understand that. But we just want to see more diversity in the classroom so we can bridge that gap and get everybody involved. And we also want to guarantee that this police brutality is not going to happen here on our streets in Clovis, New Mexico. So in that aspect, we wanted to get more community involvement. These are something simple that we can do. You know, me and the group that I have with me today, we can get this started a little bit quicker as soon as we get some restrictions off of us from the COVID. But we wanted to do, most cities do like a First Friday or like a community art walk type thing. One of our things for the school district was to bring more art back into the school. Through us doing this rally and the vigil, we've met 5 or 6 college graduates right here from Eastern who have their degree in art. One girl expressed that she will see one child or one grade one time out of a month, and that's to teach them a lesson in art, whether it's classical, modern, whatever they want to do. It's one time out of a month that they get art. That's it. So what happens for that little girl who loves to paint but can't? Little boy who loves to draw but can't because they only get it once a month. an actual instructor who knows what she's doing, or he or she knows what she's doing. So we wanted to bring something to the community. Some cities do a First Friday, so it's really like you would do it on your main street, which is Main Street, obviously. So you just block off the section. You can have food vendors out there, so that gives a chance for local business. We always want to bring business back to our local area. They can come out, do food trucks. It's almost in a sense of dragging Maine. We can set up a little, cut off a little area for the art section. That would bring in your art walk. That would bring in the little kids from K to 12, and then your grown-ups who do art around town as well, who just can't get that exposure that they need for somebody to just see that they're good. So we could tie that back into school. And obviously those women that I was talking about that have their degrees, then that already go into the school, they can do field trips and let the kids do a beautifying Clovis type thing. So we've seen a lot of tagging and graffiti and stuff on the walls lately of sides of business. So that gives them a chance to go out and beautify Clovis and put up a nice mural. So maybe we're doing character counts. We're big on character counts around here. So you could do a character counts mural. Maybe it's, Native American history. We could do a big mural on that. Maybe it's just something simple that they wanted to do, put a big Zia symbol or a flag or whatever the case may be. But that's something that they did. And we could do that, if it's something simple, you could do K through 3. 4 through 6, and then obviously the high school and junior high could have their own separate thing. Some other things that I thought would be good for diversity and bringing the community together would be base involvement. So on base, they have a cultural event. They bring out your Islanders. They bring out your African Americans, people who have German descent, whatever. And whatever your culture is, they do it like a big thing. They do African folk dancing, wherever you're from, whatever you have running through your veins, they bring it out. It's a big celebration, and I feel like we need that. Like, I remember growing up here, we literally had so much stuff, but now it's washed away. I don't know where it's gone. I don't know why it's not here, but we love our military base. I'm a military brat. My father's been in the military served 30 years, not anymore, but we love our military around here, so why not get the help that we can get from the base, which is not hard. I know plenty of people still affiliated, and get that out into the community. We could have, whenever they have their thing on base, maybe we could follow it up that next week and have hula dancers or poems being read, stuff like that, just to get the community back involved and stuff like that. To kind of piggyback to that First Friday thing, we know right now we're still under a lot of restrictions for the COVID-19 and stuff. Maybe by August, this would be something that we could do, and we wanted to incorporate like a backpack run, so get, local organizations maybe to donate books or spiral notebooks, pens, markers, whatever they're gonna need. I'm sure they're gonna need plenty of sanitizer, tissue, stuff like that. So we could pack a backpack or multiple backpacks, how many we get, and at least help some families out in the community that will need it. Especially since parents and whomever caregivers are, haven't been in a job maybe for the last 2 to 3 months since all this stuff has been going on. So other than that, all right, I just want to give the approval.
Make sure you covered it all.
Exactly,
Check
yes.
with your team back there. Yeah.
So other than that, I just really want to say thank you for coming out to all of our events and showing your support. My father, he's here. The 4 or 5 people I have backing me up. We have some other people who also came with us, who were out at every single thing we had going on. And I just want to tell you publicly, thank you. We really do appreciate it, and it shows that you care about our younger generation that's coming up.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate that, and I was glad to attend. Commissioners, help me remember, when does the ethnic fair take place and that the city sponsors? Ms. Burrows?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. It happens in July at Hillcrest Park, and actually it's it's a diverse group, and of course the city is also a sister city with the town of Kasama in Zambia, so we're part of the International Sister Cities program. and they have come from Kasama and helped support that event. We celebrate all the different nationalities and different cultures, the diversity that we have within the community. And actually, Selma's Price is here this evening, and he has spearheaded that for 26 years or so. Selma's 28. So he could speak better to you regarding that. But it's a big event that we have every year at Hillcrest. I know Commissioner Garza has been involved with it on the committee for many years too. But the city sponsors that financially, and we all work there every year with that too. Thank you.
I thought that the ethnic fair fit with some of what you were talking about there. I love your ideas. I love to hear from you, and glad that you came to share this with us this evening. Commissioners, do you have any comments? Or
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
yes,
Sorry.
Commissioner Levitt.
Yes. I don't know if you've contacted, if you want to do something on Main Street, I would certainly recommend contacting Lisa Pellegro Spear. She's the Main Street Coordinator, the Executive Director, and she can help with the things that might be needed by the city to block off blocks and things for you, and should be a great resource of information. There's
Tell me
also
her
some.
last name one more time?
Spear,
Spear,
S-P-E-A-R,
okay.
yeah. But
And
if
we'll
you-
make sure you get her
Yes.
contact
Okay,
info.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Okay, we
Absolutely.
greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
We
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Mahan. Do we have anyone else wishing to give public comment this evening? Okay. Commissioners, we will move on in our agenda to the consent agenda. This item is placed on the agenda so that the commission, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they may wish to approve or acknowledge by one motion. If any proposal does not meet with the approval of all of the commission members, or if a citizen so requests, that item will be heard when it's reached under the regular agenda. I'll read the consent agenda items now, beginning with number 2. Request for approval of resolution number 3024-2020 DFA, budget changes. Number 3 is request for approval of annual contract renewals for citywide mowing and landscaping. Number 4 is request for approval of letter of agreement between the City of Clovis and New Mexico Civil Air Patrol for voice over IP radio repeater to be placed at Station 3. Number 5 is request for approval of appointment of City Manager Justin Howalt as the designated certifying official for the Senior Center Community Development Block Grant. Number 6 is request for approval of sale of 2007 Vac Hunter pothole trailer to the City of Texaco. And number 7 is request for approval to appoint Piper Whitaker to serve on the Clovis Carver Library Board as a student member. Commissioners, if you don't have questions, we're looking for a motion to place the indicated items on the consent agenda by unanimous vote.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Garza, and the second came from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Commissioners, will you please vote? How about, clerk, will you please call the roll for that?
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Render,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley,
Yes.
Commissioner Levitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid,
Yes.
Commissioner Casals,
Yes.
and Commissioner Elliott.
Yes.
Thank you. By a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve or acknowledge all items on the consent agenda?
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Madrid, and the second came from Commissioner Garza. Will the clerk call the roll? Oh, sorry. Commissioners, please vote electronically. And by a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item on tonight's agenda is introduction and adoption of resolutions and ordinances. We have one item under that section tonight, and it's a doozy. So settle in, commissioners. Here we go. Request for approval of adoption of ordinance number 2133-2020, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more loan agreements and intercept agreements by and between the City of Clovis, New Mexico, the governmental unit, and the New Mexico Finance Authority, the Finance Authority, evidencing a special limited obligations of the governmental body to pay the principal amount of up to $9 million together with interest thereon for the purpose of financing the cost of refunding, paying, and discharging the governmental unit's outstanding A, gross receipts tax refunding and improvement revenue bonds, Series 2011A, B, gross receipts tax improvement revenue bonds, Series 2011B, and C, gross receipts tax revenue bonds, Series 2010, providing for the payment of the principal and interest due under the loan agreement solely for the distributions of the revenues received from the governmental unit pursuant to Section 7-1-6.4 NMSA 1978, the state shared gross receipts tax, providing for the distributions of the revenues of the state shared gross receipts tax from the State Taxation and Revenue Department to be redirected to the Finance Authority or its assigns pursuant to the intercept agreements of the payment of principal and interest due on the loan agreements, delegating authority to make certain determinations concerning the terms of the loan agreements and the intercept agreements, ratifying actions heretofore taken, repealing all actions inconsistent with this ordinance, and authorizing the taking of other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the loan agreements and the intercept agreements. Mr. Morris, would you like to advise?
Thank you, Mayor.
I can read it again if you like.
No,
Okay.
well, for your information, I attempted to shorten and summarize that title, but Ms. Burrows rebuked me, so. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. So May 21st, this issue came before you. At that time, the Commission adopted a resolution approving our application to the Finance Authority for this ordinance. The ordinance was introduced the same day. It was published and then published in a newspaper of general circulation on May 31. Contained in your agenda packet on page 44 is about 100 pages, which include the ordinance and all the accompanying documents that the loan approves. We do have on the line our bond counsel, Daniel Alsop from the Module Law Firm, as well as our financial consultant, Eric Harrigan, who gave a presentation on the 21st, and I understand is going to give a presentation this evening as well. So with that,
Okay.
I would turn it over to Mr. Harrigan if he's on the line.
Oh, great. Mr. Harrigan, if you're on the line, we would give you the floor.
Yes, Mayor and members of the commission, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Well, as mentioned, last month we did a presentation and you know, the introduction or the title of that in short is, simply put, is that the city has 3 bond issues that it can refund for savings. And I have a presentation that I will try to cover fairly quickly since we went over this a month ago. But one of the things about tonight is we do need direction from the commission on how they would like to proceed on the refunding in terms of restructuring it or just taking the level savings, and I'll kind of explain what that means in just a little bit. Before you should be a presentation. We have a refunding highlight, but if I could turn your attention to page 3 of the presentation, which is entitled the Series 2010 Refunding Overview. As mentioned, the ordinance anticipates refunding the 2010 bonds for interest rate savings based upon current markets. And again, these savings are relatively conservative given where the current interest rate market is. But refunding the 2010 bonds would generate about $235,000 in debt service savings, which about $323,000 in savings, which is about 3.83%, which translates to about $23,000 roughly in annual savings based upon current interest rates. From the standpoint of the refunding, the city also has the option to restructure the bond to provide for debt service relief in next year, in fiscal year 2021, and some debt service relief in 2022, should the city want to be able to, to have that option. By doing that, the city would need to extend the debt by 1 year from the original final maturity of the 2010 bond. The refunding, though, still generates about a little over $200,000 or about 5% on a present value basis. This, however, would provide about $400,000 in debt service savings in year one and about $122,000 in debt service savings in year two with the restructure. This loan was originally done to finance the wastewater treatment plant, and so the savings would benefit the wastewater utility. Going on to the 2011A refunding. The 2011A refunding, this was originally issued to fund the purchase of the golf course. Refunding these bonds would generate approximately $221,000 if you were looking at just taking annual savings, not restructuring the debt, which is about 11% present value savings. As mentioned in last month, the minimum threshold to be considered economically beneficial would be 3%, and this certainly exceeds that number. From a restructuring standpoint, the city would also have the option to restructure these bonds as well. Again, that would require extending the debt by 1 year. It would provide debt service savings in the first year of about $192,000 to the city, and then about $20,000 a year in annual savings thereafter. On the restructure, the savings would generate about the same amount. Because rates are so low and because the yield curve is so flat, the savings would be about $212,000. On the 2011B bonds, these bonds were used to fund various park improvements and acquisitions around the city. These bonds can also be refunded and generate present value savings. The present value savings are about $96,000 on just a straightforward refunding, no restructuring, which is about 4.4% on a present value basis. On a restructuring, this would provide about $200,000 in debt service savings in the first year and about $7,000 to $8,000 a year annually thereafter. Again, this assumes extending the debt 1 year past the final maturity of the original 2011 loan. On a present value basis, it generates about $84,000 or about 3.9%. I guess maybe what I will do is I will stop there and see if the city has any questions on the 3 refundings or restructurings that I talked about.
Commissioners, I wonder what questions or comments you have. I know as I look at this and I listen to Mr. Harrigan's explanation, and I think about what's going on with our state's financial situation and what maybe the next few years could look like, and in terms of seeing money come from Santa Fe our way and how we might be able to kind of protect our financial position. The restructuring kind of sounds good to me. What do you think?
I myself think that restructuring sounds a lot better than refinancing.
Okay. Thank you. I think we had a hard time hearing you on that, Commissioner. Would you mind repeating that?
I feel restructuring is also a good idea instead of refinancing it.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Harrigan?
Mayor,
Sir.
could I ask Commissioner Lovett what he thinks about that?
Yes. Commissioner Levitt.
I look at the long term, and And I think even with the restructuring, we're still saving significant money, especially on the second bond. It's actually almost coming out even, but we're saving some good monies the next 2 years on what we might have to pay. And I agree with Mayor Morris that with what may come from Santa Fe, or actually what may not be coming from Santa Fe, that it gives us some opportunity to have some funds available for the city's expenses.
Thank you. I apologize to you for not getting with you before this. I should have told you I was going to ask that question.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners?
Good.
Are we looking for a motion?
I make a motion, we go ahead and restructure all 3 bonds.
Mr. Harrigan still has a little bit more to his presentation, so.
Thank you for that. He did say that. Mr. Harrigan, please continue with your presentation.
Mayor and Commissioners, I will be brief. The one thing I just want to mention from an interest rate standpoint is that rates hit all-time lows last week. The last time that we saw rates this low was prior to the pandemic, which the pandemic significantly impacted the municipal markets. Rates have since come down significantly since that point. And it appears that timing will be very favorable to the city. So we expect to achieve, saving results, greater than what I've shown, because we try to be conservative in our numbers when we show on the refunding. So with that, I just wanted to kind of summarize the market update portion of it, and happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Harrigan. Do we have any additional questions?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor
Yes,
Pro
Mr.
Tem and
Howell.
Commissioners, and I too agree with the restructuring of the bonds. Obviously, it bolsters our cash reserves in the short term, but also thinking of that long-term position, we do still have a savings there. We'd also want to still think about planning, because while we are bolstering our cash reserves, we still have projects in the future that we may need to accomplish on our own if there's not capital outlay dollars. I know, just thinking about the future and with the wastewater treatment plant, we also still have building our reuse pipeline project, et cetera, that we could use these dollars towards match. We could use it to pay off some of our water trust board loans that we have outstanding. When it comes to the golf course restructuring, we know that we're maybe having to invest in an irrigation system out there. So while we don't have to spend those dollars today, like I said, it bolsters those cash reserves to where we have to have that cash available in the future. We would have it available to us while still achieving that long-term savings. So just wanted to point that out. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Anyone else? Yes,
I
ma'am.
will second the motion.
Okay. Question on that. Do we need to structure the motion in such a way that it's not only to approve this, but to indicate we want to use the restructure option?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So could I have you amend your motion
Okay,
to say that you would like to approve,
the restructuring.
and we would like to use the restructure option that we're being offered?
Yes, that sounds good.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Madrid, and the second
Second from-
has come from Commissioner Casals. If the commissioners would please vote.
And if we need to find projects, I would like Martin Luther King done.
By a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on. Next item is unfinished business. We actually have nothing to deal with there, so we'll move on to new business. First item there is request for approval of contract renewal with Capital Consultants, LLC, for fiscal year 2020-2021. Ms. Burrows?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. John Ryan with Capital Consultants has provided services on behalf of the City of Clovis for several years, federal and state legislative agenda for the city. There's a copy of his scope of work, the proposed scope of work for this upcoming year. The and staff has been visited with, Mr. Ryan and going through the various areas of work that he's proposing to do to represent the city of Clovis both at the state and the federal level. The only difference this year with regard to the fiscal part of his contract is that we are suggesting paying him on an hourly rate for the services. The rate that he is proposing is a market rate, and so it'll be for a not to exceed amount this year, 52,500 plus NMGRT. Mr. Ryan is on the phone this evening to answer any questions that you may have or to discuss this in in more detail if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. Mr. Ryan, if you are on the phone and can hear us, please unmute, and you can have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
You can't? Oh, great. I appreciate working for the city. I have for many years, as Claire mentioned. A lot of the issues that the city advocates for and needs assistance and are ongoing in a lot of areas, whether it be the airport or water or Cannon Air Force Base, land and parks, roads, those kinds of things. There's lots of different programs. There's lots of different needs that the city has with regard to the federal, state government, whether it be the congressional delegation or some of the administrative offices like the Department of Transportation or USDA. My experience in Washington for 15 years, working for members of Congress, serving in the Senate for 12 years, those kinds of experiences has allowed me to gain access to different programs and to interact with different people that are in charge of some of those programs. So I think, that it's been a wonderful ride so far. COVID-19 is changing things a little bit. We're not traveling to D.C. like we usually at about this time, visiting with the delegation and talking about the priorities of the city. So it kind of makes sense for the city to, put me on an hourly wage and save the city a little bit of money in the process. And we can still do the good work that you guys have asked me to do, and I'm happy to do. So I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Ryan, and thank you for the good work that you do for the city of Clovis. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Ryan or comments?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Casals, and the second came from Commissioner Levitt. Commissioners, please vote. By a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. Thank you. And thank you again, Mr. Ryan, for joining the meeting tonight. Number 2 under new business is request for approval of easement encroachment located at 1332 Oakhurst. Proposed metal fence 19 feet into city right-of-way. And Mr. Wilt is here to advise us on this. Mr. Wilt?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. Daniel Funches, located at 1332 Oakhurst, has applied for easement encroachment for, if you look on your packet, I'm not sure what page it's on, but there's a survey that shows a blue line for his proposed.
147.
It's on page 147.
Blue line, yes. Yep. Shows his proposed location. He has 2 established trees out there that he wants to incorporate into his backyard. I approved it, Public Works approved it, City Manager disapproved it, so it's your call now.
Thank you, appreciate that.
For that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Wilt. We may have some questions. Commissioner Rinder, Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to go to Justin first?
Mr.
Happy to.
Howell, would you like to advise us?
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. And just for your information on why I disapproved the request was simply because most of the encroachments that are brought before us are usually found when a property sells and there's a property survey done. Usually, and a lot of times they are for fences. Those encroachments usually are a foot, 2 feet. They haven't encroached upon our right-of-way this great of an amount. And so it's something that I was not comfortable with approving. The right-of-way for Commerce Street is, or I'm sorry, for Marvin Haas is an 80-foot right-of-way. What's unique about this situation is the roadway actually is not centered within that right-of-way. It's actually shifted to one side, thus the reason there is such a large area left between the roadway itself and the applicant's property line. But once again, I didn't want to set a precedence on myself of approving something that is a foot or two typically that we see in front of us. This is a new build, and so you may want to consider the fact that it is a new build, and allowing somebody to go 20 feet out into our right-of-way is something that I definitely have not seen underneath my tenure so far. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Commissioner Render?
Yeah, this is right across the street from me. One of the concerns that I had was that the possibility of a fence, a metal fence, would impede vision going down Marvin Haas. I walked out in my yard where the yield sign is, stood at that sign and looked at where he had the fence plan, and there is no impediment. You can look all the way down Marvin Haas, so there is no problem with that. Having said that, I would move for approval.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Garza.
To our city manager. Do we see any future plans for expansion of this street, Marvin Haas?
I don't have any current plans, definitely, of expanding on Marvin Haas. There is protections underneath our encroachment rules to where if we did need to expand upon that, as well as utility companies. If there's a gas line that runs adjacent to Marvin Haas on that west side. If for any reason the fence impedes the ability for us to perform our services, or for the utility company to perform their services, it would be on the property owner at his expense to remove and replace his fence. One thing in regards to sight distance, you may want to consider as well is also the alleyway to the north. That's where the greatest encroachment comes in, about that 19 feet. And so I know that I have not looked at that and researched that, but I know obviously our trash trucks come pulling in and out of that alleyway. That may be an issue for sight distance issues as well.
Well, how high is this fence going to be? I'm sorry. Oh, it's a 6-footer. Okay. I think our trash trucks are higher than that. I think they should be able to see through. So I second the motion.
Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion and a second.
You still have time for discussion, though.
Sure.
Sure, Commissioner.
You know, I mean, and this gentleman's a nice guy. In fact, he made the news this last week, and appreciate what he did for our police. And my only concern is the precedence that we set. And, you know, if we allow this 19-foot encroachment, what is the next request? And how do we turn that down? And so that's my concern and why I will vote no on this.
I want to comment on that comment. I think this is our always view case by case. I don't think it's one size fits all. Just because we're approving this one doesn't mean that the next one is going to be approved. So depending on all the factors that come into play, then we will look into that also. So just my comment on that.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Madrid.
Have we talked to the owner that he's responsible for that fence if he has to take it down?
It's on the forms that he signs, and I believe Mr. Wilt has spoken with him regarding that matter.
Okay.
He does realize that. He has even spoken with the gas company. There is a high-pressure gas line there. If the gas company ever needs to get in there to do work on that, he realizes that they're gonna go in there and just take his fence down. It's gonna be his responsibility to replace it.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because we don't want people to come back and say, well, I didn't know we were supposed to do this and that.
Yes, and it is on the easement encroachment form that he did sign, so that he is responsible.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Commissioners, will you please vote? By a vote of 5 in favor and 3 against, this motion carries. Next is request for approval of appointment of representatives to serve on the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, MRA, Steering Committee for Redevelopment of Areas 1 and 2. Ms. Burrows.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. This item came to you at your May 21st Commission meeting for discussion when consensus planning was approved to prepare a plan for the MRA, and then at your last meeting on June the 4th, it was tabled for some more applicants to come forward, and the commissioners were working with various folk. We now have some individuals who have come forward to serve. Mr. Carpenter, Commissioner Lovett has spoken with, Commissioner Elliott has worked with Jean Porter, Commissioner Rowley with Eric Collins, Commissioner Madrid worked with Johnny Lopez, and Cliff Martin was a name put forward from Commissioner Casals. Donna Labatt, who resides in Commission District 1, has also submitted an application to serve, and that has been sent to you. Lisa Pellegrino Spear with the Clovis Main Street program has expressed an interest in serving, and staff, including the city manager and myself and the building safety director, will serve in an advisory capacity. As you know, when we discussed this at the last meeting, Jackie Fishman was recommending 10 individuals to actually be the steering committee. And so what we're looking for maybe is a commissioner from each one of the districts that is within the MRA, and I know that you had expressed an interest as well, Mayor, so that might make the 10. However you would like to move forward. Thank you.
So Commissioners, this is on page 149 of your packet. You can see a wonderful group of citizens that are willing to serve on the steering committee. I'm of the opinion that we should have commissioners from each of these districts, at least one, serve there. I would like to serve on the committee. What are your thoughts?
Mayor,
Yes,
I would
Commissioner
also like to, I agree with your assessment, and I would volunteer to serve as a District 1 representative.
Okay, wonderful.
I
How about
volunteered to serve as District 3 representative.
Commissioner Madrid has volunteered to serve from District 3. How about a commissioner from District 2?
I can serve.
All right, Commissioner Rowley? Great. So, that would be myself, Commissioner Levitt, Commissioner Madrid, Commissioner Rowley, and then everyone mentioned, everyone that Ms. Burrows mentioned.
So then, yes, thank you, Mayor. It would be
Yes.
the 5 people on the list, and then if you so wish, Ms. Labatt, she's here this evening too. And then that would give you your 10, and then Ms. Pellegrino Spear could join our staff, being as she's the Main Street Executive Director in an advisory capacity, if that would work for you.
That would be perfect. Sure. That would be perfect.
Mayor?
Yes.
So we are moving Ms. Labatt on the commission?
She would be the 10th member.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. So can we have a motion?
I'd make that motion of the names that you've mentioned to serve on the committee.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Levitt, and I think I heard a second come from Commissioner Rowley. Will the commissioners please vote? And by a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. We will move on to the next section in the agenda, which is reports of boards.
Mayor,
Off-
there was a new agenda that was sent out. There's another item under new business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't looking at the correct agenda. Please give me grace. Item number 4 under new business is request for approval to apply for the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, DCIP funding for Phase 2 and 3 of the Clovis Wellness Center. And Ms. Burrows, would you tell us about this?
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. This is a very exciting opportunity for the community. It's something that we've been working on with the Association of Defense Communities for several years, is to find funding for infrastructure for municipalities affiliated with military installations. So the ADC has worked very hard. You're members of the Association of Defense Communities, and the Department of Defense and the Office of Economic Adjustment are offering this new federal funding opportunity. It's called the Defense Community Infrastructure Program. The acronym is DCIP. And the city's been supporting the Association of Defense Communities for several years to help secure this funding. So the federal government has identified $50 million for projects ranging between $250,000 and $23 million. The projects being sought are those that support military family quality of life. And the announcement was made in late May, and the deadline for applying is June the 26th, so we are on a bit of a tight deadline. Staff has discussed various opportunities. We've worked with some other groups too and looked at things that might be a good fit. One of the projects that you have been working on for several years now is the Clovis Wellness Center. It's up there on the screen for you to see. That's the complete build out. Of course, you have the existing natatorium there on the right-hand side. And back in 2010, phase 1 of this Wellness Youth Development Center was constructed with capital outlay funding. That funding was also allocated, was used to construct Mike Harris Field over on Martin Luther King. And then if you could go to the next slide, please, Eugene. This funding that we would be seeking is to pay for phase 2 and 3 of this Wellness Center project, which phase 2 is a therapy learn to swim program. So for young people to have a learn to swim piece there, it's a warmer pool, which would be kept at a higher temperature so that young people could learn to swim and the seniors could use it for therapy. Of course, being a smaller pool, it's more cost efficient to keep at a warmer temperature. And then the other piece there is a competition pool, which of course the Clovis High School could use, well, the community as a whole. And of course, this would work well for the military too, because a lot of the folk that are with the Cannon Air Force Base have kiddos that participate in the swimming programs at Clovis High. This would also, of course, allow the city to have competitions here. We haven't previously been able to do that, which of course is an economic driver for the community. As you know, Play Inc. used to be on this location many years ago, part of the capital outlay money that was used back in the early 2008, 9. So we used to abate and demolish that area to prepare the way for this new project. We've worked with Decker Parish, Sabatini, the architects, on these plans. So they've just been sitting here waiting, and this seems like an opportunity to go ahead and try and move this project forward if we were to be successful with grant funding. We have to receive a letter from the wing commander approving moving forward with that, and we're working through that right now with Cannon Air Force Base, and so that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Burrows. I think it's exciting to think about the opportunity to to have this project move forward. Certainly. Do we have any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Casals and a second from Commissioner Garza. Commissioners, please vote. By a vote of 8-0, the motion carries. And now we will move on in the agenda to reports of boards, officers, and committees. And the first item that we have there this evening is Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority report from Mr. Orlando Ortega. And Mr. Ortega is here with us tonight. Welcome, sir.
Good evening.
Good
Mayor
evening.
Morris, Mayor Pro Tem Bryant, and commissioners. Thank you for this time that you've given me to report on. First of all, on behalf of the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority, we'd like to thank you for your membership. The city of Clovis has 74.72% of this project, so you are very important to this effort, and we appreciate that. I have a presentation to present to you all tonight. It's a little bit lengthy, but I'll go fast. And if you have questions throughout the process or throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask. So, I kind of wanted to start out with just kind of the big pictures, especially for those of you being new to the commission, mayor and commissioners that have been recently elected. Wanted to just kind of give you a big picture, and from there we'll go into more of the details of what we're doing today. The Eastern New Mexico water pipeline is called, officially called the Eastern New Mexico Rural Water Pipeline. Most people know it as the Ute Pipeline Project. This project has been going on for many, many years, in fact, decades. It was a great idea from the state of New Mexico to build the Ute Reservoir for the purpose of supplying water to communities in eastern New Mexico at some point in the future. Well, we've reached that future. The future is here, and we are now working to construct and build this pipeline. The Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority has 16,450 acre feet of water reserved at the reservoir that will be delivered to the member communities. If you look at the reservoir, Ute Reservoir, that reservoir holds 200,000 acre feet of water. So if you can just imagine 16,450 acre feet of that, 200,000 acre feet, it's only, I believe, about 6% of that reservoir. So just to give you an idea of how much water we will be taking out of that annually. The system consists of about 110 miles of conveyance pipeline. And a lot of parts that go along with that. I won't go into detail on that, but we will be delivering about 28 million gallons or it's capable of delivering 28 million gallons per day, depending on demand of what we really need to take from that on a daily basis. But the system will be designed to meet peak demand for each community. The funding to construct this project comes from three different sources. One is 75% is federal from Congress and kind of funneled through the Bureau of Reclamation, who manages our project on the federal level. 25% is non-federal, 15% of that coming from the state of New Mexico, and the remaining 10% of that is coming from the local membership. So if you think about the cost of this project and the cost to the city of Clovis, think of that 74.72% of that 10% that the local membership pays. Cost of the project is estimated at $527 million, and that was a 2017 estimate. We do an inflation index on that about every 2 years with the Bureau of Reclamation, and we analyze the cost, we analyze inflation, and then we determine a cost of today cost of construction. The next slide is a map of the project, so you can kind of get an idea. Everything in red we call raw water. Everything in blue we call finished water, and that means finished from the water treatment plant to the communities, and that is drinkable, potable water. Currently, we're working on the blue section, which we call the interim groundwater pipeline project, and I'll go into that a little more later in the presentation. Next slide. What we have constructed to date, we have the intake facility over at the reservoir constructed, and this kind of gives you an idea of what that facility looks like. This project was constructed between 2013 and 2016. What we do there now is we manage the property, and it's basically the straw into the reservoir. So when we get ready to connect, this is where we connect the transmission system to. Next. This slide here talks a little bit about what we're doing now currently and what is currently under construction, what we call Finished Water 2, and that is the main transmission pipe that services the city of Clovis and Cannon Air Force Base. This is a 7.5-mile portion of the pipeline that connects over to, actually starts up in northwest part of Cannon Air Force Base. If you know where Curry County Road R is, where the Chavez housing is, on the west side of that property, and if you travel up Curry Road R to the end of that Chavez housing, that's where the top portion of Finished Water 2 begins. We travel down Curry Road R, go into Cannon Air Force Base, and we connect to Cannon Air Force Base with a 16-inch ductile iron pipe, a lateral pipeline, and then we continue east towards the city of Clovis into Martin Luther King. At Martin Luther King, we head south to Brady Avenue, where we connected to the EPCOR water system. This project is 99% complete, as you can see there. We've been on this project for a little bit over a year. In fact, last May 13th, I believe it was when we laid the first stick of 33-inch pipe in the ground. And exactly a year later, we began filling the pipe with water. So the project has gone very well. We are under budget, and all has gone well. The pipeline was hydrostatic tested last week, put under pressure with water, and it met the pressure, and all of those tests were approved. And this past week, we actually were disinfecting the system and are currently doing that right now. Very minor things are left in that project. We are completing some painting, doing some cleanup work, doing some restoration of property. The seeding will occur on those properties on October 1st. We kind of missed the deadline on the right time to seed for the spring, so we're going to hold off to the fall to seed those properties. This project was budgeted at $28.6 million, and as I mentioned, we are under budget on this project. All has gone well. During this year, a little over a year of this construction work, we created 60 direct jobs on site and 15 direct jobs off site. And of course, again, we certainly support the local communities with a variety of different expenditures, including rental of apartments and hotel rooms and eating at restaurants when we could, and purchasing supplies locally, concrete, trucking supplies, just a variety of things. The next few slides are just pictures of our construction throughout the year. As you can see, this is not just digging a small trench and throwing a pipe in the ground. It's very sophisticated engineering and quality control and quality assurance inspections and everything else that goes along with building a pipeline that will last you at least a century. Next slide. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Next slide. That picture right there on your left, if you look in the background, that's the EPCOR storage facility over on Brady and Martin Luther. Next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about this slide right here. These are the vaults that are part of this phase of construction. We have 11 vaults here, and in those vaults we have valves or something else that does something that allows this system to operate properly. We have pressure valves, we have air vac valves, we have isolation valves. You know, there's a science to moving water in large pipelines, and as I mentioned to you, this project is very well engineered, and as your city manager knows as an engineer, it's pretty impressive how this project has been designed and engineered. But all of these vaults are underground and have hatches where we can enter them and turn these valves, and we can exercise them. We can isolate sections of the system. We can allow air to be released while we're pushing water through the system, so it doesn't cause vibration or hurts the pipeline in any way. So very, very interesting. Next slide. A little more construction. That here is these are pictures of the vault construction. This one particularly is on at Cannon Air Force Base. You can see a little more of how these things are constructed. So you can see why it's taken us a year to build this project. This vault here is the one that I like the best, because this is the main junction vault, which comes, as you can see, the pipe where it says to a future water treatment plant. That comes from the reservoir, and as it comes in, going over to Clovis and supplying water to Clovis and Cannon Air Force Base and Texaco, and then on to Portales through this other way, on to Portales and Elida eventually. Again, another picture. This is the vault over near the EPCOR water storage facility. And this is almost finished here. Actually, dirt will be on top of that, and then you won't see much of anything. We have some protection safety guards there, and this is an air vac where it allows air to come out of the pipe as pipe is traveling through, as water's traveling through. Another picture of another vault. Okay, going on to the next project that we are focused on, which is Finished Water 3, and this is the pipeline headed to Portales. So as we're finishing one up, we're preparing the engineering for the next one and preparing a bid package for going out to procure and soliciting bids for the next project. We estimate that we will probably go out to bid probably late summer, possibly as into fall, and or maybe even early winter, as soon as possible, of course. But we certainly have a lot to take care of before we get to that portion. This is a 16.8 mile pipeline of 20-inch PVC that will connect to Finished Water 2 over on the west end of Cannon Air Force Base, and then travels south to the city of Portales and connecting to their system. At this time, this is estimated at about $36.6 million. We hope to construct this in 2 phases. We're doing pretty well with funding. That next slide will tell you exactly what we have. We've been able to secure up to date a little over $25.5 million towards Finished Water 3A, which is the next phase of construction. And with that, we feel we can get at least 2/3 of the project completed. As you can see, funding from the Bureau of Reclamation this year, fiscal year 20 funding at $14,750,000. One Water Trust Board award from last year, 4817 at a little over $2.8 million. The governor was kind enough to support us with this project and added another $1 million of her funds towards this project. And then just 2 weeks ago, we received word from the Water Trust Board on our 2020 application that we were going to be receiving, if we meet all readiness to proceed items, we will be receiving a little over $5.7 million. We had actually requested $4.3 million, and they actually awarded us more than what we had requested. So we were very happy about that. And then authority funds that we will contribute towards this phase of project at a little over 1.1 million for a total of a little over 25.5 million. So we're excited about that. As I mentioned, we hope to go out to bid either late summer, early fall, but it could even go a little further. We have many partners with this effort, as you can imagine. The federal government through the USBR, the state government where we work with the New Mexico Environmental Department Constructions Programs Bureau. And all of these entities participate in making sure that we're spending your money, spending our money correctly and efficiently. And not only that, but also making sure that this project is engineered well and that it will be constructed well. So it takes time to make sure that we do all of this work correctly. Next slide. This is a map of the Finished Water 3, which is the next phase that I just talked about going to Portales. Next slide. The next phase that we're looking at concurrently with Finished Water 3 is beginning to prepare Finished Water 1, which is at the top end of Finished Water 2, heading north 15 miles to our future water treatment plant. And with that, we certainly want to be as shovel-ready as possible with all of our projects, just in case we have the opportunity to secure money, whether it's on the federal level, state level, or even local dollars towards any of these projects. So our greatest success comes when we are shovel-ready for these projects. As you can read on that slide, this is the alignment that runs north and south from the top end of Finished Water 2, which is at the very edge of the Curry County where the Chavez housing ends up there, and then straight north there. This project is estimated at $48.3 million. Next slide. As you probably know, our focus is, at this time, is constructing the interim groundwater pipeline, which was the blue section of the big map, the first map that I showed you. And that is basically connecting the population communities and then heading towards the reservoir. Initially, this project, we began with the idea of building from the reservoir and coming to the communities, but we felt that it was going to take many years to do that. So we thought that if we were able to connect the communities together and then head north, there could be some opportunity for some groundwater availability there in the interim to hold us up until we get to the reservoir. With that, at some point years back, the authority voted to begin on the interim groundwater pipeline project and then head north to the reservoir, which I believe was a great idea, and we're making great progress with that. As you know, or probably know as commissioners and have probably been briefed on, the city of Clovis has acquired 930 acres of water rights northwest of Clovis, right along the edge, the north end of Finished Water 2 and where Finished Water 1 begins. And those water rights were secured in efforts to preserve the aquifer in that area, not only to assist in helping Cannon Air Force Base with their water supply, but also maybe future needs for the city of Clovis and the authority membership. We also have communicated with some farmers north of on the route of Finished Water 1 who have actually approached us with interest in the possibility of maybe selling us groundwater. So we're looking at all of that. In fact, on the next board agenda at our June 25th board meeting, one of the items is the discussion of assembling an ad hoc committee to start working on at least investigating the possibilities of accessing or acquiring groundwater in that area. So we're excited about these projects that we're working on, and hopefully making sure that the member communities have access to the water needs that they have, not only today, but also into the future. This map here kind of gives you an idea of the interim groundwater pipeline project needs. Some months back, we started emphasizing this effort to the Office of Management and Budget at the Washington level in saying, hey, if we could come up with some local dollars and some state dollars to match some federal dollars, would you step up and provide those federal dollars? And this is what we expressed to them of our needs in completing that interim groundwater pipeline. As you can see, some of this project has already been completed. As I mentioned to you, Finish Water 2 is just about complete. And then engaging into Finish Water 3, of which we've already acquired a little over 25.5 million. So the number drops as we continue to move forward, and hopefully we can get this accomplished. Those efforts with OMB continue, with the state also continue, and what was discussed on that was a 40-30, I think it was 40-30-20 match, and those talks continue today. In fact, we met with OMB just this week via telephone to continue our discussions on this and provide updates to them. Next slide. This slide here shows a little bit about the efforts that we are wanting to engage in this next fiscal year. The preliminary budget for this has already been approved by the authority board, and of course we still have to take it to final approval on the final budget, but basically these projects are scheduled to begin July 1st with the authority, and these dollars here are solely authority dollars, the a little over 3.5 million that you see on the bottom of your bottom right of the screen. If you go up to the top right corner, or I'm sorry, top left corner, you'll see in the box there the Finish Water 3A project, which is the construction that first phase of construction towards Portales. The amount of dollars that the authority is going to be investing in that is a little over 1.1 million, as you can see, but the overall effort is a little over 25 million in total dollars for construction. If you look over to the right of that at Task Order 7, we are investing a little over almost 800,000 this year in preparing, bringing that engineering up to 90%, and also working towards securing easements along that route. If you look over at the next box to the right of that, Task Order 8, is work towards the Texaco lateral, an investment of, I believe, a little over 89,000. We initially budgeted 100,000, but our cost estimate is looking like more in that $89,000 range. And that's going to be looking at the best alternative for Texaco, bringing all the stakeholders together. And once we select the best route for that lateral, then we can work on doing environmental and doing hard costs on the construction of the project. If you go down back to the left over to Task Orders 6, below that is Finish Water 3B, which is realignment engineering to the Portales Lime Street facility. When we initially engineered the Portales phase, the pipeline was going up to Johnson Hill, to their Johnson Hill facility, storage facility. This engineering was done about 5 years ago. Since then, we have revisited that, and the city of Portales came to us about a year and a half ago and asked the authority if they would consider realigning the end portion of that engineering to send this pipeline transmission over to their Lime Street facility. And with that, it would bring them a redundant supply, or a redundant system to the Portales community. Right now, they rely on one system, which is the Johnson Hill system. And if anything goes wrong with Johnson Hill, the whole city shuts down with their water system. So they felt that this would bring them another opportunity as an alternative. So if there were issues with Johnson Hill, they could continue to supply water to their community, their hospital, their industry, their businesses, their citizens. So the board looked at that. We did cost estimates on that, and ultimately the board approved that. We are now going through the process of getting support from the state NMED Constructions Programs Bureau, and once we hopefully receive approval of that, we will move forward with that work. Going over to the center, task order 5, remaining work on finished water 2, which is going to take us into the new fiscal year and completing that project. And then the next task order is task order 3, which is easement acquisition of finished water 3 and easement acquisition of finished water 1. And then the center at the bottom is task order 4 on general engineering. Just want to give you an idea of what the local membership dollars are being spent on. Next slide. And this is more in detail on each of those projects and kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing as far as construction documents, special design services, hydraulics, permitting, easement acquisition, and of course, in gross receipts tax. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, again, I just wanted to re-emphasize the benefits of the interim groundwater pipeline of what we're working on now. Connects 90% of the authority's population, of the membership population, provides ability to negotiate for groundwater while that groundwater is still available, can provide immediate service to the population. So this will be a supplemental supply to the city of Clovis, Cannon Air Force Base, and the other member communities if it's needed. And then, of course, strengthens the economy in eastern New Mexico. That gives you, this commission, the confidence to look at industry and business and say, hey, we have the ability to support you with our water supply, which hasn't been the case in the past. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident that you can grow your community and move forward in the future in confidence with that. And then again, strengthens the military, Cannon Air Force Base, agriculture, and economic development. Next slide. One of the important things that you probably want to know as commissioners is what your outstanding debt is to the authority, actually not to us, but the New Mexico Finance Authority. Every year we come to you when we apply for a Water Trust Board application, and 90% of that application is a grant, 10% of it is a loan. And what we do is we have to go to every member community to get your approval and your signature to your portion of that loan, which your portion is 74.72% of that 10% of that loan. So these Water Trust Board loans began, I believe, back in around 2004, and these are what are on the books right now. So you have an obligation to each of these loans and the loan balances. So that's why I brought these to you, so you can see where you stand on that. Our current outstanding debt total is a little over $3.6 million. Every year we do an annual payment to these loans, and there's no interest charged on this. There is 0.25% administrative fee charged by the New Mexico Finance Authority to administer these loans, and so we make our annual payments. In fact, just this week we made our annual payment for this fiscal year. Next slide. So if we break it down here by percentage of allocation, you can see of that total debt what your portion is. And with that, you can see that the city of Clovis is 74.72%, is a little over 2.7 million. And you can see what the obligation is of all of the membership to date. As you know, just this year, we've had 3 members of the authority withdraw from the authority, and we did that through the legislature. That takes a statute amendment, and it takes the authority of the legislature to allow that to occur. Well, Curry County, Melrose, and Grady have exited, but up until then, their obligations, they signed off on these loans, and these are their obligations, with the exception of Melrose. Melrose came to us 2 applications ago, and they said, we don't want to be a part anymore of any of your loan obligations further going forward. But they did say, in good faith, they said, we don't want to hold you up by not signing these. So if you would allow us to sign to help you, but keep us out of the obligation of those loans going forward, we will gladly sign them. And we appreciated that from them. And the authority allowed that to occur, and we respect that and will respect that whenever they do determine what they're going to do with their obligation. So the last 2 loans that you saw on the slide before, Melrose does not have obligations to those last 2 loans that we did, 4326 and I think it's 5093. I just wanted to point that out to you. Next slide. So in looking at this slide here, this is the annual payment. As I mentioned, we just made that payment on June 16th. The payment was $210,403.24, and you can see what the principal was on that, and then the 0.25% administrative fee for that total. And so we made that payment. So every year that balance on the right side of all of those loans goes down some. And I can certainly report to you at any time what those balances are, and I'm glad to meet with you one-on-one if you want to learn more about what we're doing. The bottom portion of this slide I think is important because when I came into this position, I looked at that long list of debt that we have, and every year that we apply for a Water Trust Board loan, grant loan, we call them groans. That 10% is an obligation. It's a debt obligation. Even though there's no interest charge in it, it's still a loan. You still have to pay that back at some point, and we are paying it back annually, but it's a slow payback. So what I recommended to the board after looking at our finances, I said, why don't we try to pay this debt off and really just create a program that allows us to pay as we go. Well, the New Mexico Finance Authority and the Water Trust Board in their structure, they don't allow you to pay that 10% off of every application as you apply for it. What you do is you apply for it, and if you're lucky enough to be awarded, and you meet all of the readiness to proceed items, they award that money to you. Then they give you 2 years to spend that money, and after that 2 years transpires, then you're allowed to pay that back in full. So what we're doing with this, we actually started at the top of the list and looked at our finances, and we felt comfortable through our finance committee and then through our board to approve the paying off of the 2 top loans, which is Water Trust Board 56 and Water Trust Board 84, and in the amount of $208,716. So along with that annual payment that we just made, $210,403.24, we're also going to pay $208,716 towards that debt. So our goal as the authority is to eliminate that debt instead of allowing it to grow. Next slide. That's it. I hope I wasn't too long, and I stand for questions.
Well, we appreciate the report. That's a lot of information. Thank you for updating us, and thank you for everything you're doing.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Ortega?
Mr. Ortega, just more of a comment than a question, but you know, we continue to receive funding through the state and through the federal government because we're shovel-ready on this project. You know, they continue to give us money because they know we're making progress on getting this completed. So I think that's an important thing to mention. But, you know, I appreciate your hard work on it, and I appreciate you coming tonight and informing not only the commission, but our citizens on this project. So thank you.
You're absolutely right. Being shovel-ready, they're more likely to award us with funds and help us with getting this project completed. What we want to do is be shovel-ready all the time. One of the things that I recommended to the board is that we be under construction always. Every year be under construction. My hope was that as we were completing Finish Water 2, that we would be going out to bid for Finish Water 3, and we are doing that. We're going to be a little more delayed than what I would like, but not bad at all, just a couple to 3 months. But we want to make sure that everything is good to go before we go out to bid.
Great.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions for Mr. Ortega? Yes, Commissioner Madrid.
You know, when you first started showing that slide about those blue lines that were where water was going, you know, you had a blue line to Melrose and you had a blue line to Grady. And those two entities have already gotten out, haven't they?
They have.
So those lines, we're not going to reconstruct water lines to them, are we? Or are we still going to construct water
Commissioner,
lines?
as of May 20th of this year, Melrose, Curry County, and Grady are no longer part of the authority. And you are correct. We will not have to construct those pipelines. So that is a benefit to us in one way. Of course, you know, we can get this interim groundwater pipeline built sooner, and hopefully be able to provide water to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ortega, thank you very much. We appreciate you, sir. Next, we have the monthly investment report from Ms. Leanne Melanson.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, and Commissioners. On page 155, you will find the revenue and expenditure summary. We started May with 43.9 million and ended at 43.9 million. So, good month. Yes, Ms. Commissioner Levitt, we're watching our expenses. So, brief overview. General Fund 1, ending cash 5.5 million. Solid Waste Fund 2, 2.4 million. Wastewater Fund 10, 2.8 million. Our Economic Development Gross Receipts Fund 64, 1.8 million. Our Capital Outlay Quarter Percent Fund 65, 2.2 million. Our Water Quarter Percent Gross Receipts Fund 66, 5.8 million. And our Drainage Improvements Fund 88, a little over $1 million. And on page 156, it's a breakdown. We have $20.7 million in our local banks, $12 million in our local CD, and $11.1 million in our state pool. Our interest for the month is $24,000. Our year-to-date for 11 months is $385,000. Our state pool is down to 0.3924. We hope to start seeing that go up. We will wait and see. And our gross receipts did come in. They were a little delayed this month, but we are 2.47% down from this time last year. And overall for our fiscal year, we are 15.29% up compared to our fiscal year 2019. So we are in a good financial position going into the new year. And again, we will always continue to be conservative. We will continue to watch our expenditures and watch gross receipts to see what impact those have on us. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Outstanding. Thank you for that, Ms. Melanson. Do we have questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for that report. Appreciate what you do. Next, future agenda items. Commissioners, what future agenda items would you like to put forward? Ms. Burrows, do we have future agenda items?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. We have the Airport Engineering Services contract on the next agenda. We have the beginning of the revenue review process to request to start the revenue review committee process to appoint that, so if you'd like to start to think about who you'd like for that, we can discuss that at the next meeting. We also have the Main Street Professional Services contract on the next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. Do we have other future agenda items to discuss or to bring up? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to announcement of date, time, and place of city board and commission meetings. We have 3 to announce this evening. Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Committee will meet at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd, here in the North Annex, 701 North Main. Also upcoming is Public Works Committee. They will meet 8:30 a.m. Wednesday, June 24th, here in the North Annex of the library. And lastly, to announce this evening is the next commission meeting. City Commission meeting will be at 5:15 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd, here in the North Annex. And with that, Commissioners.
Mayor, I would like to take the opportunity to wish Commissioner Casas a happy 27th birthday.
Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Render and Commissioner Casals.
I
Very
enjoyed it
happy
myself.
birthday to you.
Thank you.
With that, we are adjourned.